The unfaithful spouse entered the kitchen, her steps halting as she caught sight of me. "You didn't go?" The lathe vibrated softly under Matthew's touch, the spindle taking form as his hands, guided by instinct, maneuvered the gouge along well-trodden routes. After 23 years of woodworking, his hands had learned the delicate dance of pressure and release. Sawdust clung to his forearms, the workshop scent of pine and varnish as intimate as the rhythm of his own heartbeat. His phone vibrated with a sudden urgency. The time had come to settle the monthly bills. With a weary exhale, Matthew switched off the lathe and took his place at the workbench, where Rachel had thoughtfully arranged their statements. His calloused finger traced each line with a deliberate precision: electric, mortgage, credit card. His brow furrowed in discontent. The Visa balance had swelled to almost twice its normal amount. He perused the charges. 3 nights spent at the Westlake Hotel, amidst the backdrop of Rachel's so-called mommy retreat weekend. A dining tab for 2 at an unfamiliar establishment. A chill crept into his chest as he meticulously cross-referenced the dates with the calendar on his phone. She had mentioned that she would be assisting Annie with her divorce over the weekend. Matthew remained motionless, as sawdust drifted from his sleeve onto the statement below. The waning afternoon sun stretched shadows across the incomplete deck as Matthew Cole knelt, scrutinizing his level for the 3rd time. Flawless. The cedar planks stood in perfect alignment, each screw meticulously countersunk to an identical depth. While some builders may hastily approach this phase, Matthew takes his time. After 23 years in the trade, he had learned that the importance of foundations cannot be overstated. "Mr. Reynolds, this is truly remarkable." Dr. Harriman stepped out from his back door, 2 glasses of lemonade gracefully held in his hands. Matthew rose, his knees aching after hours spent in a kneeling position. "Thank you. The primary framework ought to be completed by tomorrow. Next, we shall embark on the creation of that built-in bench you envisioned." He took the lemonade with a slight nod, his rough hands overshadowing the delicate glass. Dr. Harriman gazed at the deck, his admiration evident and unmasked. "My previous deck builder claimed that this slope posed an insurmountable challenge. Your execution was effortlessly smooth." Matthew gave a nonchalant shrug. What was required were simply more robust footings. The former individual failed to explore thoroughly. Upon removing the old deck, Matthew discovered that the posts had been sunk a mere 18 inches, a shortcut that led to the entire structure tilting after just 5 years. His new footings were set 3 feet deep, each one perfectly level despite the challenging slope of the yard. "How did you arrive at the solution?" Dr. Harriman inquired. "In much the same manner as one would tackle a challenging diagnosis, I presume," Matthew responded. "Consider the entirety of the scene. Uncover the true issue, rather than merely addressing the surface signs." Matthew's truck rolled into the driveway at 628, precisely as he had promised Rachel he would. The house, a humble 3-bedroom ranch they had stretched their finances to acquire 13 years prior, glowed softly as dusk began to settle in. From the vantage of the kitchen window, he observed Tyler meticulously arranging the table, while Rachel flitted between the countertops, her phone nestled between her shoulder and ear. The rich scent of chicken casserole wafted through the room, enveloping everything in its comforting embrace. Tyler, at the age of 12 and with a lanky frame, gazed upward from his meticulous display of forks. "Father, have you completed Dr. Harriman's presentation deck?" "The structure has been completed. Final refinements will be made tomorrow." Matthew tousled his son's hair affectionately. "The table appears quite pleasing. Neat and direct." Tyler radiated with delight at the compliment. The boy possessed Matthew's keen eye for detail and had been frequenting the workshop since he first learned to walk. With a light-hearted chuckle, Rachel concluded her call. "Cindy extends her greetings. Next month, her mommy group is embarking on yet another retreat weekend. Only girls, thank goodness." Matthew nodded, scrubbing his hands meticulously at the sink. Even after vigorously scrubbing with lava soap at the job site, sawdust and stains stubbornly lingered in the creases of his knuckles. "How was the luncheon at the country club?" he inquired. "Heavenly. The Petersons had arrived. He has recently ascended to the esteemed position of partner at the dental practice. Rachel carefully positioned the casserole atop a trivet, a small act of domestic artistry. It seems they are completely transforming their backyard, complete with an infinity pool, an outdoor kitchen, and all the accompanying features. That sounds quite costly, Matthew remarked. Indeed, specialists have the liberty to set their own fees. Rachel's smile grew a touch more restrained. Not everyone spends their entire life driving nails. The remark lingered in the atmosphere surrounding them. Tyler shifted his gaze between his two parents. Dad is constructing a deck for a brain surgeon. He extended the offer. That's quite exceptionally specialized. Matthew gently pressed his hand upon his son's shoulder. Indeed it is, my friend. Let us indulge in our meal before it loses its warmth. As dinner unfolded, Rachel regaled everyone with a vivid account of the luncheon menu, while Matthew inquired about Tyler's science project with genuine curiosity. The boy's fervor for his solar system model infused the meal with a delightful brightness. Silence enveloped the house. Rachel nestled into her bed, a fashion magazine in hand, while Tyler drifted off to sleep, having just received assistance from Matthew in calculating the scale distances between planets. Seated at his desk in the workshop's corner, Matthew meticulously sifted through the bills that had accumulated over the month. Electric, rising gently with the warmth of summer. The mortgage remains unwavering, as it has always been. He jotted down a reminder to explore whether refinancing would be advantageous given the updated rates. Suddenly, the Visa statement drew his gaze. $1,042. Goodness, almost twice their normal amount. Matthew's brow furrowed as he turned the pages to examine the intricate transactions. His acquisitions lay before him. Timber for the foundation of Tyler's science project. A fresh drill, arriving just as the old one faltered in the midst of its task. The work boots he had ultimately exchanged after the soul had come undone. At that moment, his gaze fell upon it. 3 nights at the Westlake Hotel Spa for a total of $680. The date aligned perfectly with Rachel's final weekend of her mommy retreat. Underneath, a charge for the Overlook restaurant totaling $175 for the same weekend. Matthew gazed at the statement, his thoughts meticulously sifting through the details. The gathering of mothers consistently took place at the Serene Lake house belonging to Cindy's sister. Rachel had brought it up time and again. She had remarked on the benefits of pooling resources by sharing a space. The Overlook was a refined establishment, adorned with white tablecloths, far from the sort of venue a group of women seeking a leisurely weekend would typically select. He retrieved his phone, glancing at the calendar. During that particular weekend, Rachel was assisting Annie with the intricacies of her divorce paperwork. Yet, the bank statement revealed a hotel instead. His stomach knotted with tension. One anomaly might find its rationale. This was the third. A hotel that defies all logic and reason. The lavish dining establishment. And the discordant calendar entry. Matthew placed the statement down with meticulous care, aligning it perfectly with the edge of the desk. After 23 years in construction, he had learned a crucial lesson. When measurements fail to align, it signals a deeper issue at play. When the very foundations lack truth, all that is constructed upon them is destined to crumble in time. He chose to hold back from confronting her for the time being, not without a clear understanding of what lay before him. As with any well-conceived project, it was essential to conduct a thorough evaluation prior to taking any steps forward at the break of dawn. The hardware store swung its doors open at 6 a.m., ready to serve the contractors eager for supplies ahead of their team's arrival. Matthew stood in the parking lot at 5:55, a thermos of coffee cradled in his hand, having penned a note for Rachel to explain his early lumber delivery. Within the confines of the store, fluorescent lights buzzed softly above the sparsely populated aisles. Matthew strolled beyond his familiar aisles of lumber, fasteners, and power tools, making his way to the electronics department. He had never paid it much mind in the past, yet today he examined the options with the same meticulous thought he would apply to choosing the right grade of cedar. "May I assist you in locating something?" A youthful clerk, sporting a scruffy beard, made his way forward. Matthew gave a slight nod. A dependable GPS tracker, effortlessly installed. "Are we discussing the intricacies of vehicle tracking?" The clerk's demeanor was devoid of any discernible emotion. Indeed, Matthew chose not to provide further details. Do you have a handful of choices? The clerk guided him toward a carefully arranged display. This option has garnered significant favor among parents of novice drivers. Experience the convenience of real-time tracking with a comprehensive history storage feature, timely motion alerts, a sturdy magnetic mount, and a water-resistant design. Matthew examined the box with keen interest. The product boldly proclaimed a promise of peace of mind. Ironically, what about the battery life? He inquired. Approximately 2 weeks per charge. Extended if the vehicle is used infrequently. Matthew engaged in a moment of calculation. Rachel's anticipated mommy retreat weekends occurred approximately once a month. A fortnight would suffice. I'll take it, he said, his voice unwavering. In the quiet of his garage workshop, Matthew carefully unpacked the device, each movement deliberate and precise. He meticulously perused the manual in its entirety prior to installing the app on his phone, subsequently evaluating the unit's magnetic strength against an array of metal surfaces. Content with its grip, he fully charged it, adhering to the instructions meticulously. The burden of his intentions pressed heavily upon him, a disquieting reminder of the moral implications that lay ahead. After 2 decades of marriage, he found himself in a situation he had never envisioned. Yet, he had never envisioned Rachel fabricating stories about hotel stays, either. This inspection, as with any thorough examination, focused on confirming the structural integrity prior to making informed decisions. At times, one must delve deeper than the surface to uncover the truth. 3 nights later, Matthew found himself at his desk, the cool blue glow of his computer screen casting a soft light upon his face in the shadowy workshop. The tracking app revealed a map adorned with a trail of digital breadcrumbs, illustrating the movements of Rachel's SUV over the last 72 hours. The majority were anticipated. The market for provisions, the institution where Tyler pursues his education, her weekly ritual at the salon. However, Tuesday afternoon revealed an unforeseen divergence. As noted in their shared calendar, Rachel was scheduled for a dentist appointment at 2 p.m. The GPS indicated that she had reached River Heights Dental Associates at precisely 1:55 p.m. The calendar offered no insight into her lingering presence until 4:32 p.m. Matthew selected the location details. River Heights Dental stood as a distinguished multi-dentist practice nestled within an elegant medical plaza. He delved into the practice's website, meticulously examining the staff page. 8 dental practitioners, 4 dental hygienists. One face stood out to him without hesitation. Dr. Jonas Peterson. The very same Peterson whose wife had attended the country club luncheon that Rachel had spoken of. The very same Peterson whose backyard transformation had inspired Rachel's remark about not everyone spending their entire lives wielding a hammer. Matthew's jaw clenched with tension. He examined the map once more. The next day unfolded with yet another trip to the dental office, this time devoid of any scheduled appointment. Arrived at 3:15 p.m. Gone 4:48 in the afternoon. Rachel was free from any dental issues. She had recently undergone her routine cleaning just a month prior. He broadened the timeline, scrutinizing the movements of the past week. 3 distinct appointments at River Heights Dental, with only the initial one noted on their collective calendar, each spanning roughly 90 minutes. No dental procedure necessitates that many brief appointments within a single week. Matthew's suspicions solidified into a more tangible, unyielding form. He had wished for a simple rationale. Maybe therapy sessions she felt too shy to bring up, or a health issue she preferred to keep from troubling him. The evidence was leading toward a more agonizing conclusion. Yet, he craved something beyond assurance that transcends mere belief, a certainty robust enough to withstand the keenest examination, akin to a meticulously crafted edifice. Matthew laid out his findings on the workshop desk, a collection of printed GPS maps, credit card statements, and calendar screenshots meticulously arranged. 3 weeks of data gathered with meticulous care, examined with the same exactitude he devoted to structural calculations. The pattern had become unmistakable at this point. Each mommy retreat weekend in the last 3 months unfolded in a familiar pattern. On Friday afternoon, a visit to River Heights Dental will precede a check-in at Westlake Hotel Spa about an hour later. Checkout on Sunday typically occurs around noon. The correlation with Dr. Peterson's schedule proved to be even more incriminating. With keen observation and a warm exchange with the receptionist during his visit to collect Tyler's mouthguard, Matthew discovered that Peterson usually wrapped up his Friday appointments by 3 p.m. The GPS indicated that Rachel consistently arrived at the dental office on retreat Fridays, with her arrival time ranging between 2:45 and 3:15. Matthew had crafted a timeline with a precision that rivaled the most detailed project plan. 2:45 in the afternoon. Rachel makes her entrance into the dental office. 3:15 in the afternoon. Peterson concludes his session with the final patient. 4:15 in the afternoon. Each sets off in their own distinct vehicle. 4:30 in the afternoon. Arrive at the Westlake Hotel for check-in. He had confirmed the hotel stays by scrutinizing credit card statements and making 2 trips past the parking lot, where he observed Rachel's SUV parked beside a black Tesla adorned with a vanity plate that read, DNTL Docky. The evidence lay before him, resembling a meticulously finished inspection report. There shall be no room for ambiguity. Clarity is essential. Merely a collection of truths, meticulously ordered, narrating a tale he had never wished to encounter. What captivated him most wasn't merely the betrayal itself, but the intricate scheming that had gone into it. The unyielding fabrications, the nonchalant manner in which she would allude to those weekends during dinner, occasionally with Tyler in attendance. The intricate web of deceit demanded a chill he had never thought Rachel could embody. Matthew meticulously collected the evidence, arranging it with precision in a file folder. What transpired next would hinge on reality rather than sentiment. The craftsman within recognized that when one uncovers decay in a foundation, it is unwise to overlook it and merely wish for the integrity of the structure to endure. You confront it head-on with precision and care before it spirals into disastrous consequences. That he glanced at his watch. 4:37 in the morning. In 3 hours, he would have to uphold the familiar rhythm of breakfast with his family. In a fortnight, Rachel had another retreat on the horizon. At that point, he would have devised a strategy for the next steps ahead. The rich aroma of pot roast wafted through the kitchen as Matthew meticulously arranged the table. He had firmly declared his intention to take over the cooking duties this evening, asserting that Rachel was in need of a well-deserved respite. In truth, he craved the distraction, something to engage his hands while his mind wrestled with the revelations he had just uncovered. "This smells incredible," Rachel remarked as she stepped into the kitchen. She set her phone face down on the counter, a subtle habit that Matthew had never observed until his inquiry commenced. It has now been noted as a conscious act of safeguarding. "Dad's pot roast is the best," Tyler declared as he settled into his seat. "Superior to what the restaurant offers." "I'm not so sure about that," Matthew remarked, setting the intricately carved meat down on the table. "Yet it is food that speaks the truth. Simple yet executed with precision." "Speaking of fancy," Rachel remarked as she poured herself a glass of wine, "I ran into Stephanie Peterson at the grocery store. They've secured the landscape architect featured in the magazine spread, the very one behind the Sanderson estate." Matthew extended the bowl of potatoes towards Tyler. It seems that Jonas is thriving in his practice. "He's the star there," Rachel replied, her voice nonchalant, yet her gaze momentarily darted to Matthew's face. "Stephanie mentioned that they are considering elevating him to the role of managing partner. Is that akin to the chief among all the other dentists?" Tyler inquired. "Something along those lines," Rachel remarked. "It includes a charming corner office and a substantial increase in salary." Matthew nodded, his gaze fixed on her as she delicately sipped her wine. 2 weeks prior, he could have quipped humorously about how deck builders rarely find themselves in corner offices. He observed with keen interest the enthusiasm with which she spoke of Jonas Peterson's rise in his career. "How is your science project progressing, Tyler?" Matthew inquired, purposefully shifting the focus of the conversation. As Tyler elaborated on the advancements of his solar system model, Matthew's attention was drawn to the glow of Rachel's phone screen illuminating the counter. She cast a fleeting look at it, only to swiftly flip it face down once more. "I was thinking," Matthew remarked as Tyler wrapped up his thoughts, "the neighborhood picnic is approaching the weekend after next. This year, Let's opt for something crafted at home rather than purchased from the store. As it turns out, Rachel mentioned that coincides with the weekend of my upcoming retreat with the girls. Oh, really? Matthew maintained a steady tone. I was under the impression that those typically occur on the final weekend of the month. A fleeting expression of surprise and concern flitted across Rachel's face before she broke into a smile. Annie made the alteration. Next weekend, her daughter will be participating in a soccer tournament. The deception unfolded with such grace that had Matthew not followed her SUV to the Westlake Hotel in Jonas's Tesla on 3 separate occasions, perhaps he held a belief in her words. That's unfortunate, he remarked, slicing through another piece of roast. The Petersons can often be found at the picnic. I'm certain your absence will be felt deeply. Once more, her phone vibrated with a persistent buzz. This time, a subtle twitch danced through Rachel's fingers. Matthew said calmly that you can check if you need to. It's nothing that can't wait, she replied, yet her gaze remained fixed on the phone. Once Rachel and Tyler had settled into their slumber, Matthew made his way back to his workshop. He retrieved a weathered leather album from a cabinet that housed his collection of project photographs. Within the confines of the space lay family photographs mingled with snapshots of his finished decks and renovations. There, on page 23, lies the memory of the neighborhood block party from 3 summers past. Rachel lingered next to him, a smile gracing her lips as she held a plastic cup filled with punch. To their left, with his arm around his blonde wife, stood Jonas Peterson. Matthew observed the dentist's face, striking in that refined manner that hinted at consistent gym workouts and high-end skincare routines. Impeccable teeth, naturally. A man who graced the screens of commercials for opulent timepieces and sleek European automobiles. He somersaulted ahead. The festive gathering at the Hendersons' abode last year. Once more, Jonas found himself deep in conversation with Rachel, their voices mingling in the background, while Matthew lent a hand to Tyler, who was diligently piecing together a gingerbread house in the foreground. Yet another page. The auction for the school fundraiser. Jonas and Stephanie found themselves in a spirited competition with Matthew and Rachel, each vying for the coveted weekend getaway package. The Petersons emerged victorious with a bid that mirrored almost an entire month's earnings for Matthew. With every photograph, the betrayal grew more profound. This was not merely a faceless encounter with an unknown individual. This was a man who had taken a seat at their table, shaken Matthew's hand, and engaged in discussions about neighborhood affairs, all the while harboring a hidden desire for Matthew's wife, a man who met Matthew's gaze, concealing the truth behind a veil of deception. Matthew gently closed the album, taking care to preserve its contents. The intimate nature of the betrayal pressed down on him, a chilling burden in his heart. He faced his computer and entered Jonas Peterson DDS into the search bar. The website for the dental practice emerged. At the forefront lies Jonas' professional biography. Harvard Dental School. Expert training in cosmetic dentistry in Switzerland. Professional affiliations and accolades. An artfully crafted portrayal of achievement. Dr. Peterson and his wife Stephanie reside in River Heights, accompanied by their golden retriever, Baxter, at the bottom of the page. In his leisure hours, Jonas finds joy in sailing, collecting fine wines, and exploring the diverse landscapes of Europe. Exploring the wonders of Europe. Matthew remembered how Rachel had developed a keen fascination with France in the last year. She proposed that they indulge in a genuine vacation one day, rather than sticking to their typical camping excursions that Tyler cherished. The image was gradually coming into focus. This transcended mere physical betrayal. Rachel was striving for a way of life that Matthew simply couldn't offer, a life where individuals transformed perfectly usable backyards, driven by the notion that the existing design had become outdated, a relic of last season's trends. Matthew shut the browser and lifted the lid of Rachel's laptop, which sat abandoned on the kitchen counter. They were supposed to share their passwords, or so he had believed. Her password had ceased to function, a minor treachery layered upon the greater deceit. He must delve further into the depths. As the first light of dawn seeped through the workshop windows, Matthew carefully linked Rachel's phone to his computer. He lingered in the shadows until she succumbed to a deep slumber, gently lifting the device from its resting place on the nightstand before carrying it to his workspace. The phone remained locked, yet Tyler had once revealed a clever method for backing up photos without the need to unlock the device. A feature that Rachel had never thought to disable. He felt no pride in this breach of privacy, yet the underlying web of deceit rendered the actions justifiable. If he were mistaken, no one would ever discover that he had sought confirmation of his correctness. The backup program executed quietly in the background. Messages materialized within the folder structure, meticulously arranged by contact. He recognized most of the names: companions, relatives, the institution where Tyler learns. Next, there appeared an entry marked simply as J. Matthew carefully opened the file. A multitude of messages stretching back almost a year. He perused a recent exchange. J. Already feeling your absence. Friday feels like a distant horizon. M. I am aware. The strain of enduring these family dinners is becoming increasingly palpable. J. Keep in mind the treasures that await at the West Lake. That exquisite bottle of Bordeaux and I. Matthew continued to scroll, his jaw clenching with every new exchange that appeared before him. In that moment, he stumbled upon a revelation that sent a chill coursing through his veins. M. Matthew is preparing for an ambitious deck project for the Millers next month. J. A remarkable creation crafted from pressure-treated lumber. Halt. Indeed, the thrilling realm of 2x4s and deck screws awaits. J. In the meantime, I shall find myself attending the dental conference in Chicago. Exemplary in every aspect. The hotel suite is a sight to behold. M. It must be quite pleasant to drift off to sleep without the lingering scent of sawdust enveloping you each night. J. You are worthy of a life far beyond that, Mel. A person who can offer you the allure of Paris rather than the simplicity of camping excursions. M. At times, I find myself observing him in his workshop for hours, utterly absorbed in the pursuit of achieving the perfect joint. What is it that we truly care for? Thus, one can place their grill upon it. J. There are those who construct decks. Some forge destinies. The nonchalant disdain pierced more profoundly than the corporeal treachery. Matthew dedicated 23 years to honing his craft, finding fulfillment in designing spaces where families could weave their memories together. With his own hands, he crafted their deck, thoughtfully designing a cozy corner nook that became Rachel's favorite reading spot. Each joint flawless, not out of necessity, but as a reflection of his commitment to his craft, infused with integrity. She had ridiculed him, occupying dinner tables opposite him for months, sharing their bed, all the while convinced that he was somehow lesser in her eyes. Matthew shut the files with a decisive motion and hung up the phone, the silence settling around him like a heavy curtain. He placed it gently on her nightstand, careful not to disturb her slumber, before retreating to his workshop. For the first time since uncovering the affair, a genuine fury ignited within him, not merely at the treachery, but at the deep-seated disregard for his identity and the principles he held dear. He lingered at his workbench, his fingers gliding over the polished maple surface he had meticulously shaped years prior, and in just 10 days, the neighborhood picnic would unfold. The Petersons were sure to attend. They consistently presented their renowned bourbon-glazed ribs. Rachel envisioned a serene escape at Westlake alongside Jonas, shielded from the prying eyes of the world. Yet, circumstances may shift. A builder understood that unforeseen challenges necessitated alterations in design. At times, the most effective method for mending a crumbling edifice involves fully revealing the decay prior to reconstruction. Matthew extended his hand toward a pencil, poised to draft a new endeavor, one that would unveil the truth with the meticulousness and attention he dedicated to each task. This would stand as his greatest masterpiece, meticulously calculated and executed with precision. The initial rays of dawn crept through the workshop windows, casting a soft glow as Matthew meticulously sifted through the digital evidence he had gathered. The entanglement with Jonas was evident, yet a persistent thought lingered in his mind, a remark from one of their exchanges regarding the previous summer at the lake. At first, he had taken it to signify a mere fantasy, yet now uncertainty clouded his thoughts. He flipped open his laptop and delved into their shared cloud storage, a digital vault where cherished family photos were seamlessly archived. He navigated through the memories of last summer's annual camping trip to Lake Sherwood. For years, they had engaged in this cherished tradition, one that Tyler held dear to his heart. However, the previous year, Rachel had asserted that she was suffering from a migraine on the second day and had returned home, urging Matthew and Tyler to proceed with their father-son fishing plans. Matthew stumbled upon the photos from that weekend. The final photograph of Rachel captured at the campsite bears a timestamp. Saturday, 10:23 a.m. based on the GPS data he had discreetly installed in her car after uncovering the affair. She was expected to arrive home by early afternoon. He perused their bank records from that time. There it stood, a charge at the Westlake Hotel Spa on Saturday night, a restaurant bill substantial enough for two individuals with a penchant for the finer things in life. The affair had not merely commenced a few months prior, as he had once believed. It had persisted for no less than a year. Matthew reclined, the understanding striking him with the force of a tangible impact. His mind wandered through the tapestry of the past year. On their anniversary dinner, Rachel appeared preoccupied, particularly on Christmas morning when she had excused herself to speak with her mother for almost 40 minutes. She had firmly insisted on going to a friend's baby shower that was out of town this weekend. How many of those moments had been mere fabrications? He perused credit card statements from earlier dates, now seeking patterns he had overlooked before. Intermittent hotel expenses stretching back 14 months, dining charges from establishments they had never frequented together, a jewelry acquisition he had never observed her adorn. Jesus, he murmured, as the timeline unfolded before him like a meticulously drawn blueprint, exposing concealed structural imperfections. This was neither a moment of existential reckoning nor a fleeting lapse in judgment. This existence was a carefully orchestrated facade, upheld as she dined with him, assisted Tyler with his studies, and whispered goodnight to Matthew, expressing her love in the softest of tones. The bedrock of their two-decade union had not fractured overnight. It had languished in a state of compromise for more than a year, perhaps even longer, as Rachel smiled at him, fully aware of the unraveling beneath their feet. Matthew's hands quivered ever so slightly as he once again opened the text file filled with the messages exchanged between Rachel and Jonas. With a newfound clarity regarding the timeline, he delved deeper than before, moving beyond the professional disdain and the flirtatious banter, in pursuit of earlier dialogues. A message from nearly a year ago captured his attention. Did he have any inkling when you returned early from your camping trip? Are you serious? Matthew perceives only what aligns with his desires, turning a blind eye to all else. I informed him of my migraine, and he merely nodded, continuing to pack the fishing gear. The unaware spouse. A timeless masterpiece, indeed. To be fair, his meticulous attention to detail shines through in his cherished wood projects, though it seems to falter when it comes to his wife. His absence has become my opportunity. Matthew's jaw tightened as he pressed on with the reading. The light-hearted jibe at his faith pierced more profoundly than the treachery itself. How did your anniversary dinner unfold with Mr. Oblivious? Painful. He presented me with that exquisite handmade jewelry box. It seems that weeks were devoted to it. Did you find yourself feigning affection for it? Certainly. It is, in fact, a stunning piece, merely a jewelry box. After 2 decades, no sparkling gems, no unexpected getaway, merely timber. Timber forever. There's no need for concern. I envision something dazzling for the moment you break free from the confines of suburban monotony. The fury that had been brewing erupted into a searing blaze. Matthew rose suddenly, sending his chair clattering to the floor. The ornate jewelry box. He had crafted it with her in mind, featuring an intricate inlaid pattern that echoed the wildflowers from the very spot where he had proposed. Devoted almost a month to the delicate art of marquetry, laboring into the late hours after completing client projects. And she had ridiculed it. He was ridiculed. He strode through the workshop, fingers curling and uncurling. His gaze lingered on his tools, the chisels and planes he had meticulously sharpened to a fine edge, the power tools capable of both destruction and creation with equal ease. For a fleeting instant, He envisioned the thrill of filling Jonas' cherished Tesla with proof of the betrayal, perhaps wielding a sledgehammer against that opulent vehicle, or scattering the contents of Rachel's high-end wardrobe across the front lawn, accompanied by their text messages for the entire neighborhood to witness. The haunting visions of retribution danced in his thoughts, alluring in their stark simplicity, as physical annihilation beckoned as a remedy for his emotional ruin. A floorboard groaned above, as Tyler stirred restlessly in his slumber. The sound drew Matthew back from the edge. Tyler, the boy he fathered, the sole individual untouched by the chaos surrounding them. What might Tyler perceive if Matthew succumbed to these urges? What insight would that impart regarding the essence of manhood? Concerning the essence of dignity? On the subject of navigating the profound scars of existence? Anticipation hung in the air as the neighborhood picnic approached. Mere days from now, both families would gather, the wronged and the wrongdoers, each upholding a veneer of neighborly warmth, presenting an ideal stage for public revelation. Yet, in what shape should that manifest? Devastation or perhaps a more calculated approach? Matthew found himself in a moment of deep contemplation, requiring genuine reflection. The workshop lay in stillness at midnight, bathed in the soft glow of a solitary lamp perched above Matthew's workbench. He perched on his stool, cradling a piece of walnut in his hands, a fragment of what was destined to become an anniversary gift for their approaching milestone. 2 decades and 1 year, or what might have constituted 21 years. The wood felt polished under his rough fingertips, its grain narrating tales of years gone by, of seasons endured, of resilience forged through challenges. Strength in trees is forged through adversity, not ease. They flourished most robustly in the face of adversity, shaped by the trials of wind and weather. A soft rain had started to fall outside, its rhythmic patter dancing upon the roof of the workshop. The comforting sound had consistently offered him solace amid his late-night endeavors. This evening, it presented a unique form of insight. What sort of man do I aspire to become as I emerge from this experience? He inquired of the vacant space. The question lingered in the atmosphere as he placed the walnut aside and reached for a framed photograph of Tyler from the shelf above his workbench. A decade ago, captured in a moment of pride, a child stands with a birdhouse they crafted together. The boy's smile mirrored Matthew's own. Identical eyes, a shared dimple gracing the left cheek. Tyler would come to understand the essence of manhood as he observed his father maneuver through this act of betrayal. Not by means of lectures or counsel, but rather through the observed deeds during the darkest hour of Matthew's existence. Dignity, Matthew murmured gently, that's what I can reclaim in this moment. The union, alas, was irreparable. It was not his pride that had suffered a wound too deep for swift recovery, but rather his dignity, which he held in his hands, to either safeguard or relinquish at will. He rose from his seat and made his way to the drafting table, retrieving a pristine sheet of paper. If he were to unveil the truth, it would be executed with the same meticulous attention and artistry he applied to his work. Not a blunt instrument, but a precise tool. Not annihilation, but a careful unraveling, exposing the truth in such a manner that renders denial utterly futile. The neighborhood picnic unfolded as an ideal occasion. A communal space, filled with families, where the very community that had celebrated their union would now bear witness to its conclusion. Yet, it was imperative that the task be executed with precision, devoid of chaos, grounded in evidence rather than mere allegations, anchored in facts rather than rage. Jonas and Rachel had exploited his trusting nature, ridiculed his artistry, all the while betraying the very sanctuary he called home. It would be fitting to wield that same artistry to unveil their deceit. Matthew set about drafting a blueprint. Not out of vengeance, but in pursuit of truth. The distinction was nuanced yet vital, akin to the contrast between demolition and disassembly. Only rubble remains. They salvaged materials that could be repurposed for reconstruction. And there would be a process of reconstruction. For his own sake, and for Tyler's, he toiled diligently through the night, the plan gradually materializing under his skilled touch. As the first light of dawn filtered through the workshop windows, Matthew had crafted a response that would uphold his dignity while bringing the truth out from behind its carefully woven facade. While certain foundations may succumb to decay, there remains the possibility of erecting something fresh, something more resilient upon the cleared earth, perched on the second floor of a charmingly transformed Victorian residence. The law office of Patricia Delaney exudes a unique character. In stark contrast to the polished downtown establishments adorned with glass and chrome, Delaney Family Law exuded warmth with its hardwood floors, antique furnishings, and a serene dignity that suggested a space where challenging transitions were approached with compassion. Matthew found himself seated opposite Patricia, a woman in her 60s with silver hair, whose name had come highly recommended by a contractor whose divorce she had managed 3 years prior. "She won't drain you of every last drop or transform it into a spectacle," he had remarked. Patricia remarked, as she examined the meticulously organized folder of evidence that Matthew had compiled. "You have certainly been thorough. GPS tracking, credit card statements, text messages. All of it paints a clear picture of a consistent pattern of infidelity." Matthew inclined his head in acknowledgement that I sought clarity before proceeding with any actions. Many clients enter this space driven by their feelings. Your approach resembles that of constructing a house, beginning with a solid foundation. With a decisive motion, she shut the folder. "What holds the utmost significance for you in this separation, Mr. Reynolds?" "Tyler," Matthew replied, his response immediate and unwavering. "I seek primary custody and a just division of assets, nothing driven by vengeance, merely what is fair and right." Patricia jotted down a note. "Considering the proof of betrayal and your son's age, which is 12. Am I right? Judicial systems often lean towards the parent who has not committed any wrongdoing, particularly when that parent has shown a consistent and stable presence. Does your home business provide the flexibility needed for childcare?" "Indeed. 4 years, I have meticulously organized my client work to align with Tyler's schedule." "Excellent. As for the confrontation you have in mind," Patricia leaned in, her demeanor grave. "While I recognize the yearning for truth to be recognized, the act of public exposure brings with it inherent risks in custody proceedings. A judge could perceive it as prioritizing your desire for vindication over your son's emotional health." Matthew had not contemplated this perspective. "I seek no vengeance. I seek the essence of truth. A distinction exists." Patricia warned that the distinction may become unclear to the courts. "Should you choose to move forward with this public disclosure, it is imperative that we handle it with the utmost dignity. There shall be no raised voices, no derogatory labels, and certainly nothing that might be deemed as emotionally unsettling." "That was never my intention," Matthew stated. "I am a creator, not a destroyer." Patricia's expression softened just a touch. "Excellent. I have now completed the divorce papers. Upon being served, a mandatory waiting period ensues. Should you choose to approach her at this community gathering, I highly advise that you arrange for her to be served right after. It safeguards the integrity of the story from being altered." With a graceful motion, she glided the documents across the desk. Matthew gazed at the documents before him, the intricate legal structure for unraveling 2 decades of marriage distilled into mere paragraphs and lines awaiting signatures. Patricia elucidated that these safeguard your interests concerning custody and community property. "I have incorporated precise terminology regarding infidelity that bolsters your stance while adhering to the facts." Matthew perused the papers, acknowledging the identical meticulousness he applied to crafting building specifications. "At what moment should I share this with Tyler?" "In the aftermath of the confrontation, yet prior to the whispers finding their way to him. It is essential that children receive the truth, tenderly conveyed by those who hold them dear." Patricia's tone resonated with the profound understanding born from numerous familial separations. "Stand together, if you can, but ensure she doesn't dictate the story." Matthew gave a slight nod, carefully placing the papers into his briefcase. The groundwork of legality was established. Then emerged the structure for truth. Within the confines of his home office, Matthew linked his laptop to the modest projector he had acquired earlier that day. The bedroom wall became his test screen, a canvas for the meticulous arrangement of evidence he had dedicated the evening to organizing. He launched the presentation software, crafting a new file named Simply Truth. Without resorting to inflammatory language or accusations, the The facts were meticulously organized in chronological order, following the guidance of his attorney. The initial slide presents a map illustrating Rachel's SUV making frequent visits to the dental office, occurring outside of scheduled appointment times. Secondly, hotel receipts corresponded with weekends dedicated to maternal retreats. Thirdly, dining establishments of a more refined nature imposed charges for 2 patrons. Fourth, a timeline that aligns Jonas's schedule with Rachel's periods of absence. Every piece of evidence bore a label indicating the date and time, meticulously arranged akin to the inspection reports he delivered to his clients. Objective, informative, and devoid of emotional influence. The text messages demanded a delicate touch. Matthew chose only the evidence that unequivocally validated the affair, steering clear of the most painful ridicule while ensuring there was sufficient material to demonstrate the deliberate deceit. He had heeded Patricia's counsel. Reveal the betrayal of confidence while maintaining a sense of grace. He meticulously tested the projection, fine-tuning the focus until the images emerged sharp and legible from a distance of 30 feet, the typical range where most picnic-goers would find themselves seated. The projector, compact in size, found its place effortlessly on the picnic table, wielding enough power to project images with clarity, even under the bright embrace of daylight. He then meticulously assembled a thumb drive, ensuring it contained backup copies of all evidence, alongside the comprehensive documentation he had shared with his attorney. This will be sent to Jonas's wife, Stephanie, right after the presentation concludes. She was entitled to the unvarnished truth, presented with the same respect he sought for himself. Matthew reviewed the timing of the presentation, 7 minutes in total, sufficient to clearly establish the pattern, yet concise enough to uphold its dignity and avert any descent into spectacle. He would utter few words throughout the slideshow, allowing the evidence to narrate its own tale. The intricate ritual of crafting the presentation brought about an unforeseen sense of tranquility. This had transcended emotion. It revolved around the art of creation, constructing an argument as meticulously as he crafted his edifices, with unwavering precision, thoughtful care, and steadfast integrity. With meticulous care, he saved the file and methodically packed the equipment. All technical preparations had been finalized. The true challenge lay ahead, preserving his calm when the time arrived. Matthew had always shied away from the spotlight, yet here he found himself, grappling with the daunting task of revealing his wife's betrayal to the world. Certain challenges were simply unavoidable. They could only confront the strength you chose to present to them. At the far end of a serene cul-de-sac, 3 blocks away from Matthew's residence, stood Mike Davidson's ranch-style home. Years prior, they had crossed paths on a Habitat for Humanity project, 2 men who valued direct communication and dependable workmanship. Their sons forged a bond through Little League, frequently enjoying sleepovers as the fathers shared a quiet camaraderie, engrossed in the game of baseball. Matthew lingered on Mike's porch, an overnight bag clutched in his hand, while the projector case and briefcase rested patiently in his truck as the door creaked open. Mike's gaze fell upon Matthew's expression, and with a subtle nod, he acknowledged the unspoken understanding between them. "Is Tyler with you?" he inquired, his gaze drifting beyond Matthew to the truck. "No, he was at home, diligently completing his homework." "That's what I need to discuss with you," he said. Meanwhile, Mike's wife, Karen, busied herself in the kitchen, pouring coffee before subtly bringing up the laundry and retreating upstairs. Mike and Matthew found themselves at the kitchen table, the very spot where they had once sketched out plans for a treehouse that their sons had long since outgrown. "I need a favor," Matthew started. "It's regarding the picnic we have planned for tomorrow." "What's going on?" "I need Tyler to remain here tonight and throughout tomorrow, away from what's about to unfold." Mike scrutinized him. "Is this concerning Rachel?" Matthew's gaze snapped upward. "You were aware?" "Had my suspicions." Stephanie Peterson noted the peculiar sighting of Rachel's car at unusual hours. "I preferred to keep my distance from matters that were not my concern." "It's Jonas," Matthew affirmed. "It's been going on for over a year," Mike said, his jaw tightening. "Son of a bitch. At the picnic tomorrow I shall unveil it to the world. Proof, records, the entirety of it. Tyler ought not to be present for that." "Indeed he ought not," Mike concurred. "He can stay as long as needed." Brandon will be overjoyed. He has been eagerly inquiring about when Tyler could spend the night once more. Thank you, Matthew replied. I'll swing by with him around 8 this evening. Inform him that it's a surprise sleepover and that you require assistance with the go-kart project. What will you say to him about why he's staying through the picnic? That his mom and I have some adult matters to resolve. Matthew gazed into his coffee. Not untrue. And afterward, I'll pick him up, take him home, and reveal the truth. As much as a 12-year-old can comprehend. Mike nodded. Karen and I will keep him occupied. Video games, go-kart construction, pizza. He won't have a moment to fret. There's one more thing, Matthew said, pausing. Following the confrontation, I will be serving Rachel with divorce papers. The counsel of her attorney keeps her from seizing the narrative. Wise decision, Mike remarked. When my brother faced his divorce, his wife spread rumors of abuse before he had the chance to articulate their separation. I'm not aiming to ruin her, Matthew clarified. I want to ensure the truth is revealed on my terms, not hers. That's precisely why you're managing it well, Mike replied. Prioritizing your son, ensuring the truth prevails, maintaining your honor. Weaker individuals would have resorted to total destruction. I considered it, Matthew confessed. But what lesson would that impart to Tyler? Do men address challenges by relinquishing control? Mike extended his hand across the table, gripping Matthew's shoulder with a steady hold. You're doing right by your son, and we've got your back, during and after. Thanks, Matthew replied, the single word heavy with appreciation. As he made his way home to pick up Tyler, a strange sense of relief washed over him. The last element had fallen into position. His son would be safeguarded, the proof was ready, and the morrow would herald the conclusion of falsehoods. Whatever unfolded thereafter would, at the very least, be constructed upon truth, a vital cornerstone for anything destined to endure. The community park thrummed with life as Matthew maneuvered into the parking lot. Checkered tablecloths adorned the lawn, tendrils of smoke curled from grills, and children darted between groups of animated adults. The annual neighborhood picnic, typically a celebration of unity, now resembled a backdrop for a gathering steeped in tension. Matthew parked his truck at the far end of the lot, allowing himself a moment to collect his thoughts, and the passenger seat rested his briefcase, holding the divorce papers alongside the projector case. Everything was in place. He caught sight of Rachel across the lawn, meticulously arranging a platter of her renowned deviled eggs on one of the communal tables. She donned a yellow sundress that was undoubtedly new to him. For a fleeting moment, the sight of her, how she tucked her hair behind her ear, the sound of her laughter as she conversed with Mrs. Hernandez, made his determination falter. But then he spotted Jonas Peterson arriving with his wife, Stephanie, bearing a foil-covered tray of bourbon-glazed ribs. With a friendly clap on the back, Jonas greeted Bill Thomas, embodying the essence of neighborhood camaraderie. Matthew's resolve hardened. He gathered his gear and headed toward the picnic area. Matthew, it's great to see you, called out Henry Wilson, tending to one of the grills. Where's Tyler today? At the Davidsons for a sleepover, Matthew replied, his voice surprisingly steady, immersed in that go-kart project. Always constructing something, just like his dad. Henry nodded in approval. Matthew navigated the crowd, offering nods and smiles, deftly weaving light banter with intent. His eyes landed on an ideal spot, a picnic table positioned close to the announcement area, where Rachel Chen, the neighborhood association president, was poised to deliver her customary welcome address. Need help setting up your laptop? Jeff Simmons inquired, observing Matthew as he organized his gear. Thank you, I have it, Matthew responded. Just a few images from the Henderson project. Rachel requested that I showcase what the neighborhood fund contributed to constructing. Jeff nodded and continued on his way. Matthew carefully linked the projector to his laptop, adjusting it to cast an image on the expansive white banner that draped behind the announcement area. He discreetly tested the connection, ensuring that everything operated smoothly before shutting the laptop once more. Across the expanse of the lawn, Rachel caught sight of his arrival. She offered a wave before turning back to her conversation with Stephanie Peterson. The two women shared a laugh, blissfully unaware of the impending turn of events. Matthew felt an unusual sense of tranquility as he completed his preparations. It was akin to the instant before slicing into a fine piece of timber, focused, intentional, resolute in his commitment to executing the perfect cut just once. Rachel Chun stepped up to the microphone as everyone congregated. The air buzzed with anticipation for the welcome and announcements. The neighborhood residents found their places around the designated area, deftly balancing paper plates and plastic cups. Parents hushed their children, creating a moment of calm amidst the lively gathering as the conversations faded to a soft murmur. Rachel Chun expressed her gratitude to everyone for their presence, acknowledging the efforts of the organizing committee. She then proceeded to outline the day's events. But before we dive into the potluck festivities, Matthew Cole is set to deliver a special presentation regarding the Henderson Deck project, which our neighborhood fund supported last year. Matthew stepped up to the microphone, laptop clutched tightly. His heart raced within his chest, yet he maintained an air of calm. Those same steady hands, unwavering in their precision, had expertly crafted countless joints before. "Thank you, Rachel," he said, as he connected his laptop to the projector. "I do have a presentation today, but it's not about the Henderson project." A curious murmur rippled through the crowd. Matthew observed Rachel adjust her posture, a brief shadow of doubt flitting across her features. "What I am about to reveal is not simple," Matthew pressed on, his tone steady and deliberate. "Yet, I hold firm in the belief that our community cherishes honesty. Even when it stings," he pressed a key, and the first slide emerged on the banner. A map displayed Rachel's SUV making repeated visits to River Heights Dental Associates outside of regular appointment hours. "This is a GPS tracking record illustrating my wife Rachel's vehicle's consistent presence at River Heights Dental," Matthew stated, his tone grounded and devoid of accusation. "Not for dental work, but to meet with Dr. Jonas Peterson." Gasps and whispers rippled through the crowd. Matthew caught sight of Stephanie Peterson's head turning sharply toward her husband, who had frozen in place, drink suspended midway to his lips. Rachel remained motionless, her complexion fading to a ghostly hue. Matthew moved on to the subsequent slide. Hotel receipts neatly matched with the entries on the calendar. These charges stem from the Westlake Hotel, associated with what were referred to as mommy group retreats. The narrative shifted once more as text messages surfaced, meticulously chosen to validate the affair without descending into the depths of mockery, merely sufficient to illustrate the intentional deceit. These exchanges affirm that what I present is not a mere misunderstanding, but rather a deliberate and ongoing pattern of betrayal that has persisted for more than a year. Matthew's voice remained steady, unwavering. He laid out each piece of evidence with the precision of an architect detailing a project to a client, allowing the facts to resonate on their own. The concluding slide displayed a straightforward timeline, weaving all the evidence into an irrefutable narrative. "I'm not sharing this for revenge," Matthew declared, his gaze piercing through the astonished audience. "I'm sharing it because I refuse to live with deception. I believe we all deserve the truth." With that, he shut the laptop, bringing the presentation to a decisive close. The banner faded to a stark white, yet the images lingered, etched into the shared consciousness of the assembly. The ensuing silence hung in the air, reminiscent of the stillness that follows a thunderclap. Each person stood in awe, grappling with the weight of what they had just experienced. Then, as if a dam had burst, whispers transformed into murmurs, with eyes flitting between Matthew, Rachel, and Jonas. Stephanie Peterson stood up suddenly, collected her purse, and departed from her husband in silence. Jonas rose partially, only to sink back down, seemingly torn between which calamity to confront first. Rachel advanced, her cheeks tinged with color. "Matthew, this is utterly inappropriate." Yet, the gaze of the community revealed everything. The evidence lay before them, undeniable. Awareness hung thick in the air as whispers escalated into a cacophony. From the parking lot, a man in a sharp, button-down shirt emerged, leather portfolio in hand. Arriving precisely as anticipated, Matthew had orchestrated every detail with meticulous precision. The presentation, the unveiling, and now the formal conclusion. Rachel Cole, the process server, inched closer, her approach direct and purposeful. "Indeed," Rachel responded, her indignation briefly giving way to confusion. "You've been served." He presented her with the envelope holding the divorce papers, offered a professional nod to Matthew, and left as quietly as he had come. Rachel fixed her gaze on the envelope before turning to Matthew. "You orchestrated all of this?" she said, her voice laced with a blend of disbelief and fury. "To humiliate me in front of everyone?" "No," Matthew responded, his tone steady and composed. "I intended to unveil the truth. The shame stemmed from your deeds, not from my disclosure." The assembled neighbors shifted uneasily, caught in a web of intrigue and the discomfort of observing such an intimate unraveling laid bare for all to see. Some started to meander off, creating a facade of seclusion while still within earshot. Jonas had stood up and was approaching them, his polished demeanor clearly faltering. "Matthew, this is utterly unacceptable. You've entirely misunderstood. Reserve it for the deposition, Jonas." Matthew interrupted, his tone steady yet resolute. "Stephanie possesses a complete collection of everything I just revealed, and even more. I recommend that you concentrate on your own marriage at this moment." Jonas's lips sealed tightly. He cast a fleeting look in the direction his wife had vanished, then turned his attention back to Rachel. Uncertainty etched on his features. With growing unease, Rachel ripped open the envelope, her eyes darting over the documents. "Primary custody? You're requesting primary custody of Tyler? Given the proof of your prolonged absences and deceit?" "Indeed," Matthew responded. My attorney informed me that this is the most probable outcome considering the situation." "You can't do this," Rachel insisted, her voice escalating. "You can't simply make all the decisions by yourself." "I didn't," Matthew said quietly. "You made your decisions over the past year. These are simply the consequences." Several neighbors had gathered around Rachel, their presence a quiet testament to the tension in the air. Rachel Chun took a step closer, her hand lightly resting on Rachel's arm. "Maybe we should find a more private place to continue this conversation," she proposed, her eyes darting between the two of them. "There's nothing more to discuss right now," Matthew stated, gathering his equipment with the same meticulous attention he had employed during its arrangement. "My attorney's contact information is in the papers. She'll take care of the next steps." He faced the assembled neighbors, the majority of whom feigned disinterest while absorbing every detail. "I apologize for interrupting the picnic. That was never my intention." With a calm grace, he made his way back to his truck, acutely aware of the multitude of gazes upon him. In the distance, Rachel's voice crescendoed, already weaving a different story. She would speak of Matthew's aloofness, how it had pushed her to find solace in another, framing his public vulnerability as the true act of treachery. Yet he understood that the evidence had articulated its message too distinctly for her narrative to gain traction. The community had observed the reality, revealed not through fury, but with calculated clarity. Eventually, they would form their own conclusions grounded in deeds, rather than mere statements. As he loaded his gear into the truck, Matthew experienced neither victory nor contentment, only a serene sense of relief that truth was no longer concealed in darkness. The groundwork had been laid. Whatever followed would, at the very least, be constructed on a foundation of honesty. Patricia Delaney's office appeared diminished in size, the afternoon sunlight stretching shadows across her antique desk. Matthew found himself seated in the same chair he had occupied weeks prior, yet the folder Patricia slid toward him now bore a weight far greater than that of the divorce papers. "Rachel's attorney filed this response yesterday," Patricia remarked, her silver-framed glasses glinting in the light. "As we expected. She is contesting your request for primary custody." Matthew opened the folder. The pages were dense with legal jargon, yet some phrases emerged with striking clarity. Emotional turmoil, public disgrace, calculated defamation of character. "She asserts that the picnic incident exemplifies erratic behavior," Matthew inquired, though he was already aware of the response. Patricia nodded in agreement. "Typical counteroffensive." She contends that your public revelation of the affair reflects poor judgment and emotional instability that could jeopardize Tyler's well-being. Matthew's jaw clenched. I held steadfast control, never elevating my voice, nor resorting to derogatory language. I simply laid out the facts. Facts that were shared in a public forum, as Patricia noted. Her attorney is framing it as a deliberate attempt to tarnish her reputation in the community where your son resides. What of her meticulous plan to dismantle our union? Her derision towards my career, the fabrications she spun for Tyler regarding those weekends apart? Patricia raised a hand. I stand with you, Matthew. I am merely delineating their tactics so we can respond with precision. She leaned forward. Their filing is predictable, which allows us to craft a response that is equally measured. What's our approach? Matthew inquired, momentarily pushing aside his frustration to concentrate on the practical next steps. The builder within him perpetually in search of solutions rather than lingering on obstacles. To begin with, we highlight the objective nature of your presentation, devoid of emotional influence. Furthermore, we meticulously record Rachel's prolonged absences during her claimed mommy retreats, which were, in reality, spent at hotels with Dr. Peterson, illustrating a consistent tendency to prioritize personal wants over parental duties. Patricia diligently jotted down her observations in her legal pad. Crucially, we challenge their assertion of stability by emphasizing your unwavering presence in Tyler's life, your attendance at school events, your engagement in his projects, and your commitment to maintaining normal routines during Rachel's absences. I have never missed a parent-teacher conference or a baseball game, Matthew affirmed, collaborating on science fair projects and assisting with homework when Rachel was preoccupied. Precisely, Patricia agreed. Judges seek to discern patterns rather than focus on singular events. Her attorney aims to frame this as a mere day at a picnic. We will instead highlight years of steadfast parenting in contrast to fleeting months marked by deceit and absence. Matthew nodded slowly, contemplating the strategy laid before him. What of Tyler? Would he be required to testify or engage with the judge? Considering his age, it seemed plausible that the judge might wish to converse with him in private, yet we would endeavor to protect him from the rigors of formal testimony. Patricia's expression softened just a touch. How is he managing it all? As well as one might anticipate, he's bewildered and in pain. Largely silent on the matter, Matthew rubbed his temples. I've been contemplating a project we could embark on together. Perhaps a treehouse, something to divert our attention from the divorce. That's wonderful news. Patricia has given her approval. Engaging in constructive activities with Tyler not only bolsters our case but, more significantly, aids him in processing the events unfolding around him. Be sure to document those moments, capture photos, and jot down notes regarding his involvement. All of this reinforces our story of stability and nurturing guidance. Matthew collected the papers and returned them to the folder. Thus, we remain steadfast in our path. No grand rebuttals to her assertions? Precisely. Your reputation is founded on diligent effort, not superficial tricks. We shall prevail in the same manner, systematic, meticulous, and centered on what genuinely counts. Patricia offered a faint smile. From what I have observed, truth, when meticulously crafted, tends to endure even as emotions falter. 6 weeks following the filing of the custody challenge, Matthew found himself seated at his kitchen table, gazing at the court order that had been delivered by certified mail that very morning. The formal language on the heavy paper rendered official what Patricia had conveyed to him just an hour prior. Primary physical custody of Tyler was awarded to Matthew Cole, while Rachel was granted visitation every other weekend and 1 evening per week. Attached was the judge's written opinion, clinical in its assessment in light of the documented evidence showcasing extended parental absences devoid of justifiable reasons, alongside the father's unwavering engagement in every facet of the minor child's existence. The court concludes that granting primary custody to Mr. Reynolds aligns with the child's best interests. A distinct paragraph tackled Rachel's principal assertion. Although the public revelation of Mr. Reynolds' marital infidelity was unconventional, the court observes that his approach was grounded in facts rather than sensationalism, reflecting a singular occurrence rather than a recurring behavior. Conversely, Mrs. Reynolds' established history of misleading information about her location during the time the minor child was under her supervision brings forth serious doubts about her judgment and priorities. Matthew placed the papers down with deliberate care. No sense of victory coursed through him. A serene sense of relief washed over, knowing the system had operated as intended. It was a matter of assessing evidence over emotion, recognizing patterns instead of performances. Then, the phone rang. Patricia inquired, "I assume you've received the order?" As he responded, "Just reading it now." Matthew replied, direct and just. Judge Harrison is known for his ability to pierce through deceit. Rachel's lawyer exaggerated the narrative of the erratic husband, a strategy that ultimately faltered when our evidence highlighted your steady presence in contrast to her recorded absences. Matthew nodded, though she remained unaware of his silent agreement. What unfolds next? It is essential to set the formal visitation schedule and coordinate the necessary logistics. The first visitation weekend is bound to evoke strong emotions for Tyler, so it's important to approach him with care. Patricia's voice took on a gentler tone. This is a legal victory, Matthew. But keep in mind, it's also the start of a new family dynamic. The way you navigate the transition is just as crucial as securing the victory in the case. I get it, Matthew replied. I don't want Tyler to feel like a trophy being won. He continues to hold affection for his mother, no matter the circumstances that unfolded between us. That very viewpoint was what swayed the judge to see you as the more stable parent, Patricia remarked. Incidentally, Dr. Peterson's wife initiated divorce proceedings last week. Their custody battle is poised to become increasingly contentious, especially with younger children involved. Matthew found no solace in this revelation. Another family torn apart, leaving more children bewildered and in pain. I sincerely hope they can navigate this situation with civility, considering the well-being of the children involved. Additionally, Patricia mentioned that the ethics complaint lodged against Dr. Peterson has led to formal proceedings initiated by the dental board. The entanglement with a patient's partner signifies a possible breach of the ethical standards governing professional behavior. It was not Matthew who had brought forth that grimathos. Most probably, it was Stephanie Peterson who had done so. Yet, he felt no surprise. In the realm of professionalism, as in the tapestry of personal existence, actions bore their consequences. Once the call concluded, Matthew found himself seated, the court documents laid out before him like a map of his unfolding reality. The legal battle had concluded, triumphing through evidence rather than mere accusation, grounded in facts rather than fueled by fury. The outcome resonated with a sense of justice, not for the sake of punishing Rachel, but for acknowledging the truth of who had been the more consistently present parent. He collected the documents and carefully placed them in his office filing cabinet. The struggle for custody had been essential, yet lingering on it held no value in the present. What truly counted was the path ahead, reconstructing a life with Tyler that promised stability, even amidst the fractured remnants of their family. Saturday morning arrived, clear and radiant, ideal for embarking on the treehouse endeavor. Matthew chose the robust oak in their backyard, its wide trunk and sturdy branches perfect for the creation he and Tyler had been envisioning for the last fortnight. They gathered at the picnic table nestled beneath the tree, their final sketches laid out before them, measuring tape and carpenter's pencil poised for action. Tyler's face sparkled with a liveliness Matthew hadn't witnessed in ages, their shared passion for construction momentarily eclipsing the turmoil within their family. "We'll anchor the main support beams here and here," Matthew explained, gesturing toward the trunk. 4x6s, pressure-treated, with galvanized lag bolts driven directly into the trunk. "Will that hurt the tree?" Tyler inquired, his thoughts clearly influenced by his environmental science lessons. That's an intriguing inquiry. If executed properly, the answer is no. Over time, the tree envelopes the bolts, seamlessly integrating them into its very structure. Matthew beamed at his son's insightful nature. The world around them evolves, discovering paths to flourish despite the shifting tides. Tyler nodded, appearing to ponder this notion deeply. How elevated will it be? The platform rests at 8 feet, lofty enough to immerse you in the canopy, yet low enough to ensure safety. Matthew illustrated the design, complete with railings encircling it, a sturdy floor, genuine windows that open, creating a proper little abode rather than merely a platform with walls. It features the rope ladder we discussed and a pulley system for transporting supplies. Matthew gestured toward another sketch depicting the straightforward mechanism that we will construct it properly, avoiding shortcuts and temporary solutions, creating something enduring. They approached the tree, with Tyler grasping the measuring tape as Matthew noted possible anchor points. Collaborating felt instinctive, easy, a well-known cadence untouched by the divorce. "Dad," Tyler ventured, breaking the stillness that had settled between them. "Yeah, bud," Matthew replied, his voice steady. "Is Mom ever coming back home?" The question slipped out softly, devoid of any lead-in. Matthew paused, placing his pencil aside, and turned to meet his son's gaze fully. "No, Tyler. The divorce signifies that our family will no longer share the same home. However, it doesn't imply that you won't have the chance to see Mom. She'll have you every other weekend and Wednesday evenings." Tyler nodded, taking it all in. "I know she did something wrong. In the presence of Dr. Peterson?" "Indeed." Matthew's response was straightforward, fitting for his age. "She made decisions that caused pain in our marriage. Yet that does not alter the fact that she is your mother, and her love for you remains steadfast. However, she has deceived you." Frequently. Tyler's expression reflected the inner turmoil of reconciling the mother he had always known with the unsettling truths that had emerged in recent months. "It is a reality that even those who care for us can falter in their decisions." Matthew selected his words with precision. "What is essential at this moment is our commitment to constructing our new existence. It may be different, yet it remains promising." Tyler gazed at the tree before returning his attention to their plans. "Similar to the treehouse, fresh yet comforting." "Precisely that." Matthew beamed, appreciative of the analogy. "We're designing a new way of living, using the best materials we have, our time together, the things we enjoy, the way we care about each other." They returned to measuring and marking, the work providing structure for difficult emotions. After completing the preliminary measurements, they began organizing lumber in the garage, sorting by size and purpose. As they toiled away, Tyler fell silent once more, his mind adrift in contemplation. At last, while they were arranging the final 2x4s, he glanced up at Matthew. "Dad, when we finish the treehouse, do you think we could make a space for Mom sometimes too?" The inquiry took Matthew by surprise. His initial reaction was one of defiance. This was their endeavor, their fresh start. Yet, as he gazed into his son's sincere face, he understood something significant. Tyler found himself reluctant to fully compartmentalize his life, to keep his mother entirely apart from the sources of his joy. "I think we could manage that," Matthew suggested thoughtfully. "Perhaps a special chair or shelf, just for her visits here." Tyler nodded, a sense of satisfaction washing over him. She can still be included, despite the changes that have unfolded. "Yes," Matthew concurred, sensing a delicate shift in his own viewpoint. "Some things transform entirely, while others merely adopt new shapes. The essence endures." They persisted in arranging materials, readying themselves for the construction that was set to commence the following day. The treehouse, emerging vividly in their imaginations, transcended mere construction for father and son. It became a tangible embodiment of their evolving family, altered, reshaped, yet firmly anchored by the enduring love for Tyler. As the sunset bathed the western sky in hues of amber and gold, long shadows danced across the yard where Matthew and Tyler now sat within their finished treehouse. 3 months of weekend labor had metamorphosed raw lumber, hardware, and collective resolve into something extraordinary, not merely a structure, but a poignant symbol of resilience and what could flourish in the wake of loss. From their lofty vantage point, they gazed across the neighborhood rooftops, the evening air infused with the aroma of freshly cut wood, and the nearby jasmine that Tyler had insisted on adorning the window boxes. The boy leaned against the railing, observing as a pair of cardinals nestled into the upper branches for the night. "They seem to favor our treehouse," Tyler noted. "Dad, do you think birds can sense when something's built right?" Matthew smiled, his fingers gliding over the smooth cedar railing they had meticulously sanded for hours. "I believe all living beings can perceive when care has been invested in creation. Perhaps not in words, but they feel it in some way." Within the confines of the modest space lay traces of their adventure, with built-in benches concealing storage beneath, genuine glass windows that swung open on brass hinges, and a petite shelf adorned with books and cherished trinkets. In one corner, the chair they had introduced for Rachel's visits awaited, its cushion dressed in her beloved shade of blue. "You know what crossed my mind today?" Matthew inquired, easing himself onto one of the benches. "What a contrast it is to behold the world from this vantage point, so distinct from the view below." Tyler nodded with gravity. "The horizon stretches endlessly. Indeed, that's a lesson I've gleaned from all that has transpired. Occasionally, a change of scenery is necessary for clarity to emerge." The boy fell silent for a moment, reminiscent of how one often fails to notice a mother's sorrow until much later. The inquiry bore no blame, merely a young one's quest for clarity. Matthew selected his phrases with precision. There are moments when individuals conceal fragments of their essence, even from those they hold dear, and at times we overlook signals because our proximity obscures the broader view. He hesitated for a moment. Yet, what truly counts is the foundation we lay once comprehension dawns. Tyler waved his hand, indicating the surroundings. In this manner, Matthew concurred. Life seldom adheres to the plans we envision. In those moments, we find ourselves at a crossroads. We can dwell on the losses that haunt us, or we can explore new possibilities and construct something unique yet enduring. The soft glow of the setting sun illuminated the texture of the eastern wall, crafted from reclaimed wood salvaged from the deck Matthew had once built at their former home, a conscious decision to weave the past into the fabric of the new. "You know what I've discovered while creating this alongside you," Matthew continued, "is that the true strength of our creation lies not merely in the materials or the design. It resides in the care we invest in every step, the focus on what truly matters." Tyler rested against his father's shoulder as twilight enveloped them, the initial stars twinkling into existence above. In that serene instant, Matthew understood he had discovered a treasure that betrayal could never seize. The tranquil grace of building rather than tearing down, of constructing foundations resilient enough to endure any tempest that may arise. "There are aspects of life beyond your grasp," he murmured gently. "Yet, you possess the power to dictate your reactions, to decide what to create from the remnants left behind. In that moment, true strength revealed itself. As they lingered in the deepening twilight, within the small, perfect sanctuary they had crafted, board by board, Matthew understood that the essence of a man lay not in his ability to avoid failure, but in his capacity to rise and construct anew. This was a lesson he yearned to impart to his son, a truth to carry into whatever lay ahead.